Hello and welcome to another episode of Climate Watch. I'm Fei Fei. Brazilian President Lula was in Beijing this week, leading a large delegation. His busy schedule included meetings with Chinese President Xi Jinping, other high-level officials, business leaders, and experts. A key focus of Lula's visit was energy transition and clean technology. He also held meetings with several Chinese automakers to discuss projects on electric and hybrid cars in Brazil. There is also a new deal on producing sustainable aviation fuel in the country. The China-Brazil joint statement issued after the meetings of the two leaders includes clauses on supporting climate action, including a commitment from China to send a high-level delegation to COP30 later this year. Another notable document is the Beijing Declaration, published after the meeting of China-CELAC, which is the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States Forum, also in Beijing this week. It calls on, I'm quoting here, all parties to consider acceding to international instruments on climate change. For climate watchers, these are some very important developments to highlight. But beyond energy and climate, the discussion also extends to multilateralism. For one, Reuters led their report with the title, China-Brazil Agreed to Defend Free Trade and Multilateralism. And the joint statement between China and Brazil was titled, On Strengthening the Building of China-Brazil Community with a Shared Future for a More Just World, a More Sustainable Planet, and Jointly Upholding Multilateralism. Multilateralism also features prominently in the Beijing Declaration. So why is multilateralism getting so much attention, and how might it shape our global climate efforts? To explore this, I spoke with an expert on global governance. His name is Xu Feibiao. He's the director of the Center for BRICS and G20 Studies at the China Institutes of Contemporary International Relations here in Beijing. Welcome, Director Xu.
My pleasure.
Let's take a look at the bigger picture this time, and how has the issue of climate change been framed during the meetings between Chinese and Brazilian leaders? And what are your main takeaways from them?
Yes. This is the second time President Lula paid official visit to China. I think this is the third time Lula became the president of Brazil. And every time, climate change cooperation is a very important part of the bilateral relations. And this time, I think the two countries renew some cooperation programs. I think the first very important things is they build some new consensus on this area. That is to expand the strategic cooperation and uphold multilateralism, especially at this juncture, this critical juncture, when Donald Trump comes to power, his second term, and we see that the conservative, the protectionism, I think is approaching to new level. So at this juncture, these two countries, China and Brazil, they want to send a very clear signal to the world that we, as the important country of the global south, we uphold multilateralism. We commit to the climate change. The second thing is China and Brazil reaffirm the commitments to its promise to address the climate change. China has renewed its promise that it will reduction of the emission on every sector of this Chinese economy and every gas emission. This is a very important renew. The third one is China give very strong support to Brazil, the presidency of the COP30 conference. I think in the official documents, China said expressed very clear support. They uphold Brazil hosting that conference because this is a very critical juncture. I think that's the global governance of the climate change now is in crisis. So this conference is very important. And China sent the signal and provide very strong support to the Brazil, the presidency. And the two countries, they upgrade the bilateral cooperations. China will invest in Brazil, I think, in a green transition area, including the industry, including the technology transfer for a lot of things. So I think this is the renewing of these two countries, the cooperation on this area.
And why do you think by having China and Brazil joining hands, showing the world that we stand by multilateralism and we will continue cooperation on issues like climate change is very important to the world?
Because the global governance now is in great danger, maybe never before, because the dominant power, United States, they are retreating. They abandon their promise, opposing their own commitment. So this is, I think, it is dangerous time. So at this time, these two countries, they stand together, come together, and upholding the multilateralism is very important.
And since you also mentioned that cooperation in climate change is now not only about governance, it also has significance in green transition, which is also a very important part of the bilateral relationship between China and Brazil. And how do you think, even with the two countries, renewing their strategic partnership, how can they make that happen in action, in practice? What can they do?
So now they have the consensus, the broadened consensus, and they also have the action plan. So they all have the vision and the consensus, and these two countries is also the resourceful country, powerful country, capable country. So when they have the will, practical will, when they have the capability, and then they also have the action plan, the road map. So the last thing is to turn the will into the action. At this meeting, the two countries established a new trans-government agency or organization. It is the submeeting committee of the climate change. These two countries, they has an umbrella organization overseeing the two countries' cooperations. And they have established the subcommittee to oversee this. So that means they not only have the will, the action plan and the roadmap, and they have the organization to promote this. We should have some confidence. The second one is these two countries, which I just mentioned. These countries powers. They are all powers. China is the second largest economy in the world, and one of the biggest power in the world. And Brazil is also a great power. It's a regional power in South America. So they all have a lot of resources and tools. If these two countries, they stand together and want to do something together, they will do it.
Is there any areas that are showing promises, especially to you, when it comes to this bilateral cooperation? In what particular areas do you think that will see the fastest growth in cooperation?
The two countries, because the cooperation not expanding fast these years, the recent years, ranging from the industry and trade and investment, a lot of things. I think the cooperation is expanding fast. And in terms of climate change, the first one is energy, clean energy area. China it has its advantage in solar energy, the wind energy, nuclear energy. China's nuclear technology also is the most advanced on this planet. Also, the battery industry and the vehicles, electronic vehicles, all of this technology in China is advanced. And Brazil also, I think, it has some advantages in the biotechnology. is one of the most advanced countries on this planet. So these two countries have abundant space to cooperate with each other. And it is needed in Brazil because Lula, the President Lula, want to facilitate the green transition of its economy. And it need new energy technology. I think this area is booming. And the second area is, I think it's agriculture. Brazil is very strong in agriculture and also in some, I think, green agriculture. Brazil also has its own strength. So China, on the other hand, they need a strong supply side on the agriculture side, area, such as the food, such as some material. So I think these two countries, they need each other. Another one is, I think, there is some industry, especially some, such as some electronic vehicles. Brazil now, they have the plan, industry development plan. They want to become a powerhouse on electronic vehicles in the world. And they need China's help. So I think these three areas in the future, we can see very fast expanding development.
Yeah, I think when Lula was in Beijing, he also said that China needs Brazil and Brazil needs China. And that sort of reflects this cooperation, this deepening of cooperation in different areas. And since you are an expert on global governance, and for global governance, we have institutions like the BRICS, like the G20 body, and which China and Brazil are all part of these blocs. And so I'm also very interested in the second sentence that Lula said, that together we can ensure the global South is respected in the world like never before. And how do you think in the world where global South is respected, and how is that going to happen? Even though right now, we're especially in the world of climate crisis, we are seeing a great difference of opinions between the global South and the global North. Do you see that these two big camps of the planet is going to meet somewhere and eventually joining hands and doing something together?
This is a great question. The global South is not a new thing. It's not a new concept. 1960s, this concept was raised by some scholars. With the development of the time, the concept, I think it is changing, evolving. At the first stage, this global thought refers to some countries that is just liberated from the Western colonial rule. And then it's become to the third world. That means the countries between the Soviet Union bloc and the United States bloc, or the Western bloc. So this is the second phase. The third period, then when the Cold War was ending, the concept is changing to the developing country. It just refers to any country that is not the developed countries. So, and now, I think just the 2020s, the concept have some new meaning. It was, I think it is depicted by some Western scholars, some big scholars. They said that this global South country is the country out of the global West and the global East. I mean, that means they want to exclude China and, of course, Russia out of this bloc. But China has its own definition. And the other country, especially some developing country, such as Brazil, they regard China as the member of the global South. So at this time, I think this concept, I think, is still not very sure. It is still changing. But the majority of the country, they regard China as the member of the global South. And this is the first thing. The second thing is the global South is different from the past. This time's global south is different from the past global south, because in the past, the global south, their purpose is they should unite together and free from bullying of the developed country. They want to unite together, cooperate with each other, and maintain, to protect themselves. This is the past. And now, because of the rise of the fast rise of the global south, as a whole, global south now, the GDP, I think it is equal to or surpass that of the global north. This is the first time for so centuries of years. This time's global south, they have some other resorts. They want to be independent. They want to formulate the rules. They want to sit on the table. So, and China is part of the global south and the leader of the global south. This is the background. And let's come to your question. This time, global north and the global south, in the area of climate change, they have very huge, very deep disagreement with each other. The global south think the climate change, these issues was originated from your hundreds of years of industrial output. And we, as a newcomer of the global economy, we contribute only a small fraction of the whole problem. So it's unfair by the rules you stipulated. So there are a lot of differences. Every time we see in the G20 or the UN framework meeting, we can see the fierce, the conflicts between these two blocs. But when Donald Trump come to power, things is changed because the global north fell apart. Some part of the global north, they don't buy the concept of climate change. So now we see some chaos. And now we see some opportunity between the North Bloc and the South Bloc to cooperate with each other. Because now the governance of climate change is in great danger. And the climate change now is increasing pressing global issues facing the whole world. Yeah, we have seen more and more disasters, some side effects because of the climate change. And the United States just withdrawing. So the North and the majority of the North, especially Europe, and the majority of the global South, they now have the urgent need to cooperate with each other.
And it's like opportunities are rising from the chaos at the moment, which is both good and bad.
Yes, there are two sides.
Yes, it's like the coin have two sides. But then I also think of, the country of Brazil, which is also very busy this year. It's not only about to host COP30 meetings, it's also hosting the BRICS meetings later this year. And climate change will definitely be part of the priorities on the agenda. How do you think this topic will continue be framed during BRICS meetings? And what sort of areas do you think that the BRICS countries will agree on joint actions together?
Yes, Brazil is very busy last year, this year. This is a great moment for Brazil. It's Brazil's time, Last year, Brazil hosted the G20 conference. Yes. And one of the important topics of that conference is climate change. If we, come back to the history, the short history of the Brazil, just a few years ago, when Bolsonaro, a right-wing politician, the president of Brazil, they just like Donald Trump. They're opposing, the concept of climate change. So they don't buy the concept. Now, the President Lula is quite different, quite the opposite. Lula thinks Brazil as a great country, as a global south responsible country, they should contribute to the cause of the climate change. Brazil has the resource, has the tools to do that job greatly. It can be one of the leaders on this area. This is Lula's conception, Lula's value. So we see some U-turn on the policy attitudes of the Brazil. So last year, the first when Lula come to power, Lula has hosted a very important meeting of the Amazon forest, and it's successful. And then the second year, that is last year, they hold the G20, also successful. And this year, two very important meeting, conference. One is BRICS countries summit, and the other is COP30. And one of the very important, so we can see Brazil has determined the theme of this year's BRICS summit. That is strengthening global South cooperation for more inclusive and sustainable governance. From the theme, we can see climate change is one very important part of this year's summit. People expected big countries will cooperate. The first one is climate finance. Lula, he will promote initiative on climate finance. It calls TFFF, T3F. It's different from the other climate finance programs. This T3F will be, I think, the main things, the main initiative or achievements in the big summits. Also, will promote this in the COP30.
T3F.
T3F.
And the full name is?
The full name is Tropical Forest Forever Fund. It's a kind of a fund,
Which is
new things.
In dire need for a lot of countries right now.
Yeah. I think Lula focused great attention on this. It will be one of the main progress or achievements attained by President Lula.
Do you think for this T3F, Tropical Forest Forever Fund, is there a place or a role for China to play?
China, in this year's meeting, the official documents, China has expressed China's support to this fund. So we welcome and we strong support the T3F initiative. But of course, this is new things. China just expressed their support. In the future, what kind of the cooperation between these two countries on this issue, we don't know. We know because it's just it's new things.
It probably needs more communication, meetings, and negotiations.
Not only this, I think China will invest in this. It's different from the past funds. There are a lot of funds, in the climate finance, a lot of funds. And the T3F is a kind of a new initiative. It's different. It's a kind of SWF, or sovereign investment fund, or sovereign investment vehicles. And it's not only built on the donations, no. It's a kind of investment.
So it's not only about a bunch of countries asking for
not only
monies from
not only donation. You can benefit from it. So this is, I think, it's innovation on this area. I think not only in the climate change area, but also the global governance area.
That's very interesting because for ages, in every COP meetings, there will be discussions about who is going to be the donor country for this crisis. And frankly, a lot of countries have their own financial struggles at the moment. So that's the reason that we're seeing these conflicts between the South and North when it comes to finance. And probably with this new innovative fund program, that you're not only just paying money, probably you can also gaining money will be more attractive.
You can benefit from it.
Yes.
So I think it will be encourage not only the public fund to finance the climate change, but also it will motivate large, huge private funds into this area. The whole package is not so big. It's just $120 billion US. not so big, but it's new things. We don't know the future, whether it's promising or not. We don't know, but it's innovative, and China expressed interest and support to it.
And actually, in this week is not only a state visit from the Brazilian president. We're also seeing meetings with other Latin American and Caribbean countries. And as you mentioned, Brazil is definitely one of the leaders in that region. And how do you see that with China and Brazil renewing their partnership, reaffirming their commitments to cooperation in climate change? How will this bilateral relationship influence that issue was perceived in that region, in other Latin American and Caribbean countries?
It's definitely there will some positive influence on the Latin America area, because the most important thing is Brazil is the leader of this region, and China as the leader of Global South. They set a framework. I think it is a very good framework for South-to-South cooperation. They managed to find the effective way between Global South countries to cooperate with each other. And I think it set a very typical, successful example for the whole region. We can see China now, they have their advantages, and Brazil, they have Brazil's advantages, and they are complementary to each other, and they all have some strong strengths. So how these two countries can cooperate with each other and to have some very successful and fruitful outcome. So the China-Brazil's cooperation, they has found some way. And this way is a good reference for the other countries in this area. I think this is the first. And the second is because of the profitable, the successful outcome of the two countries' cooperation. So if we encourage the other country on this region, they will, I think, it will encourage them to cooperate with China. Because in the past, this area is some sensitive. And the green area, the green transition is high cost. And most of the countries in this area, they are developing countries, low-income countries. Now, how can they invest in the high-cost energy area? They have no confidence. But then, China and Brazil, they said that, their cooperation, people find it is profitable, promising, effective. This will encourage cooperation, not only between they and China, but also among the members of the countries in this area.
Sort of a confidence boost to show them that you also have a chance in the energy transition efforts.
Of course, why it will have a positive influence on this area, because China have some technology transfer in the Sino-Brazil cooperations. So, of course, China will this kind of transfer to the other countries. So I think they will still stimulate the cooperation, the South-to-South cooperation.
But before I let you go, I do have this question about, since you mentioned technology transfer. Of course, China has some pretty advanced clean technology at the moment. In the past, when we were talking about, especially when developed countries are transfer or invest in a developing country, there will also be some sort of technological transfer. But do you think that will happen in the same way that when China is cooperating, for example, with countries like Brazil? Or do you think they will find different ways to have this technological cooperation?
I think first, China, they have different ideals or values. These years, China, has created some new type of international cooperation, not only between the North and the South, but also South to South. That is common development. The value behind the cooperation is different. It's equal, it's inclusive, it's mutual respect. It's different. This is the first difference. The second difference is China now, in the green energy or green area technology, China is, enjoys very strong competitiveness and advantages. In the electronic vehicle, in the solar energy, in the nuclear energy, China, I think it is the most advanced country in the world. And China can provide various ways. I mean, in terms of the technology transfer, it can very flexible way, including investing, including training.
Yes, yes. We have a lot of training programs.
A lot of ways for the transfer. I think the most important thing is you need to improve the economy, improve the quality of the people, and then you can do something together.
So the logic behind that cooperation in the past and right now between especially South and South cooperation is quite different.
Different ideals, different way, different model. Yes.
So that's something also very interesting that we can wait and see in the future. Thank you, Director Xu, for sitting with me today.
My pleasure.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform. Also, a huge thank you to Xu Feibiao from the China Institute of Contemporary International Relations, and thank you for listening to this episode of Climate Watch. If you have any questions about our planet or suggestions for future episodes, feel free to reach out to me at fei.fei@cgtin.com or find me on my newsletter Rivers and Mountains on Substack. Until next time.